Daniel said a lot of what I wanted to say, but that's fine. That's what children should do. They should raise their parents' levels higher than their parents ever thought could be. Before I introduce the panel, I would like to just mention that there are some very famous guests here, and with whom we've had a long-term connection. And I hope that some of you will take time to meet and greet them later. We have Avi Kahalani and his wife, Dahlia. We have Norm Edinburgh. We have, I'm not going to do that because I'll forget somebody. But in any case, this is a very famous assembly here because you came. That makes you famous. And on that note, I want to introduce our main speaker, and I promised Carolyn Glick she could leave at 8:30 to get home to her babies. So hold on a minute. Our main panel speaker is Professor Moshe Ahrens. He worked tirelessly to fight for the Levi airplane. He was the father of the Levi in concept and in every other way. He and his family immigrated to Israel in 1948. He was an Israeli aeronautical engineer with engineering and aeronautical engineering degrees from MIT and Caltech. Professor Ahrens is also a researcher, diplomat, and politician. He was a member of the Knesset between 73 and 92. From 99 to 03, he served as Minister of Defense 3 times, and once as Minister of Foreign Affairs. Professor Ahrens was Israeli ambassador to the U.S., and between 1957 and 62, Ahrens was an associate professor for aeronautics at Technion in Haifa. From 62 to 71, he was deputy director at Israel Aircraft Industries, and in 1971, he won the Israel Defense Prize. In the 1980s, Moshe Ahrens was the pioneer for the Israeli research and development of the Levi fighter aircraft. And you must read his book, Flags Over the Warsaw Ghetto. It's a seminal, beautiful piece about what really happened in the Warsaw Ghetto under unspeakable horrors of great Jewish triumph in fighting with great courage against certain death. So I'd like to have Moshe Ahrens speak to us about the Levi and why it's a paradigm of our sovereignty and why we can't let other things kill our sovereignty.
Gail, the Winston family, my colleagues on the panel, Victor Kahalani, honored guests who have come to pay tribute to Manuel Winston here tonight. Gail called me a few weeks ago and asked me to speak about the Levi aircraft here tonight. And I knew that she, as I, as tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, others throughout the country, in Israel and in America, are still bewailing the demise of that great aircraft project. Hardly a week goes by that I'm not reminded of the Levi. A few months ago, when I heard our former Prime Minister, Ehud Olmert, criticizing our present Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, for not giving in to the demands that were made upon him by the President of the United States, he said, "What does he think? Where do we get our fighter aircraft from?" And I thought about the Levi. What does he think? Where do we get the spare parts for our fighter aircraft from? And I thought about the Levi. And when some 2 years ago, the government took what I thought and think is a misguided decision to spend billions on procuring the F-35 aircraft, from Israel's point of view, a mistake, from the engineering point of view, from the economic point of view, from the defense point of view. I thought about the levy. Because if we had the levy, we would not even be tempted to go out and procure the F-35. So it is almost 30 years ago that the government, in the decision taken by a one-vote majority, did what to most of us, I think to most Israelis, seemed unthinkable and unimaginable: to cancel the Levy fighter project after it had passed most of the development hurdles, after it had come so close to the point of no return, after 2 prototypes were already in flight test and the 3rd was being ready for flight test, after fighter pilots had flown it and tested it and found that it was superior to all other fighter aircraft at the time, including the F-16. And when now, 30 years later, you ask an average Israeli, why was the Levy project cancelled? 99% will tell you it was American pressure. That, at least, to most Israelis stands to reason. It seems possible. If the government of the United States pressured the Israeli government and told it this project has to be stopped, the Israeli government just might give in. But it's wrong. The cancellation of the Levy was a self-inflicted wound. Surprising as it may seem, especially in today's context, the development of a fighter aircraft here in Israel, the Levy, the best of its kind at the time, had the support of the American Congress, not just moral support, but expressed by allocation of $250 million a year of U.S. funds dedicated to the development of the Levy. It had the support of the President of the United States, Ronald Reagan. It had the support of the Secretary of State, George Shultz. It had the support of much of the American Jewish community of AIPAC, and this is why it is so appropriate to devote this evening to Manny Winston, who played so important a role in mobilizing that support. In many ways, it wasn't just an Israeli project, it was an Israeli-American project, and not only an Israeli-American Jewish project, because many non-Jews in the United States in the highest levels of government supported the program. It could not have taken off in any other way. Israel then, 30 years ago, was not what is Israel today in terms of the economic resources that we have at our disposal. We needed American assistance, and we got it, and we achieved a level of cooperation in the days of the Levy that have never been equal since. You will hear Israeli politicians in recent years advertise the fact that we have a level of cooperation with the United States that we have never had before, that we've reached a peak, a record. I'm all for the cooperation that we today have in various spheres of government, but we have never had the level of cooperation that we managed to achieve during the Levy, because not only did we get large financial contributions from the United States, specifically for the Levy development. Not only did Pratt & Whitney, one of the 2 largest engine companies, develop an engine specifically for the Levy at his own expense, assuming that this was going to be a very successful aircraft and many engines would be sold with the aircraft. Not only did Pratt & Whitney give Israel a license to produce the engine here in Israel, which would have made Israel independent, not only in aircraft but also in aircraft engines, but many other American companies, like Grumman, were partners in the program and the American government, from the president down, gave the green light for full technological cooperation, for transferring American technology where it was needed to fill gaps that we could not fill at the time. A cooperation that we have never had since. So I said it was a self-inflicted wound. We did it ourselves. Not only this one vote majority that was marshaled at the Israeli government's meeting, but a campaign that was mounted here in Israel saying that this was too big a project for Israel, that this was going to bankrupt Israel, that this could never be completed, that the airplane would never meet its specifications, that it was going to cost 10 times, 20 times, 50 times more than had been programmed. Now we better stop before it's too late. At the heart of this campaign were some members of the Israeli Air Force who had gotten into personal fights with other members of the Israeli Air Force who had supported the program, who managed to get the support of some people in Israeli industry who felt that too much money was going to this program that could otherwise be funneled in their direction. People in the Air Force who thought that it was so much easier and so much better for them, not for Israel, for them to buy aircraft in the United States, to shop around, to not be dependent on Israeli aircraft industries and the lobby that might support Israeli aircraft industries in the years to come. And then, surprisingly enough, unbelievably, really, the debate was turned into a political debate. This was the National Unity Government, Likud against Labour, or more correctly, Labour against Likud, led by Shimon Peres, at the time the Deputy Prime Minister, and the late Yitzhak Rabin, the Defense Minister, insisting that all Labour members of the government vote with them, like it or not, vote with them for the cancellation of the program, aided by an unholy alliance that was formed by Caspar Weinberger, the Secretary of Defense at the time, who didn't like the Levy program, who didn't like Israel very much either, who sent one of his underlings, Dov Zakheim, to Israel in order to show our defense minister that by American calculation this program was going to cost a great deal more than had been scheduled, that it would never meet the time schedule, that it couldn't meet the performance schedule. So this unholy alliance, led by Israelis, led by the Israeli Defense Minister, crashed the program. Now, it was not the program of one man. I've been referred to here as the father of the Levy. I was one of very many people who had a part in this great program. It all started many years earlier, back in 1958, when the first class of aeronautical engineers graduated from the Technion. And the man that insisted that we have an aeronautical engineering department at the Technion, at a time back in the 50s, when most people thought that this was something extravagant that Israel wouldn't need. After all, how many aeronautical engineers would Israel require in the years to come? The man that pushed forward the Department of the Aeronautical Engineering was David Ben-Gurion, who had a vision of Israeli industry, of Israeli technology, also of Israeli independence. And I had the privilege of being a member of the original staff of that department. And I remember back in the early 60s, the United Nations sent us an advisor on the syllabus for the students of the department. He was Professor A.D. Young, a noted aeronautical scientist of the United Kingdom during World War II. And in a conversation with me, he said, "Well, what do you expect your graduates to do?" And I said, I expect them to design aircraft and missiles. He said, forget about it. He said, even we in England, they're a great aero industry, even we in England have fallen behind. It's not for us anymore. We cannot compete with the United States or the Soviet Union or France. We're out of that race, and you're not going to make it either. But as you know, we made it. Israel today has a great aerospace industry. The first graduating class was one of 12 engineers, 11 men and 1 girl. We had in the years thereafter graduating classes of over 100 in aeronautical engineering being taught at Tel Aviv University and at Ben Gurion University, laying the foundations of an aerospace industry. We met tremendous skepticism from government circles and from the highest levels of the IDF. Do Israeli engineers really have the capability to reach the technological level of the industries in the United States, in the Soviet Union, or France? The late Yitzhak Rabin, in one of the many discussions we had on the subject, said to me, you know, we have never won a war with Israeli weapons. With Israeli soldiers, yes, not with Israeli weapons. Weapons come from abroad. And I knew, as today everybody recognizes, not only the importance of the independence of having our own weapons, but also that the quality advantage in weaponry that we must have, being inferior in quantity, the quality advantage that we must have in weapons comes only from Israeli-developed weapons. With all due respect for American aircraft, for American systems, I tell you no secret when I tell you they are sold to Arab countries as well. And F-16s are in the inventory of Arab air forces. And F-15s are in the inventory of Arab air forces. The Levi would never have been in the inventory of Arab air forces. The motion of the government to cancel the Levi was obtained, the one vote majority was obtained, and it's a sad comment on Israeli governance, by untruths, or maybe more directly, by lies that were told the Israeli government. The Levi program was based on the assumption that had been determined by the Israeli Air Force that 150 Levi aircraft would be procured by the Israeli Air Force. When the subject came up for discussion at the government, years after the program had already gotten off and was making great progress, the man who was destined to become the next Israeli Air Force commander said, we are in the process of shrinking the inventory of aircraft in the Israeli Air Force, and we will need no more than 80 Levi aircraft. Well, everybody got out their pencils and started calculating and determined that now, once you amortize the initial costs on 80 aircraft and not on 150, it almost tripled the price. So maybe it wasn't that economic after all. Well, I need to tell you that afterwards, the Israeli Air Force procured hundreds, not 100, not 150, hundreds more F-16 aircraft. So it was simply not true. If there was one thing that worried the ministers around the table, including the labor ministers, was that many people would be laid off as a result of the cancellation. That hundreds, thousands of aeronautical engineers, the various engineering disciplines involved in designing an aircraft, of technicians and scientists and workers, would have no work. That nobody wanted to sign on. So the spokesman for the Defense Department said, nobody will be laid off. We have a series of alternate programs that we're going to undertake. It was called Chalufot Tel Aviv, the alternatives to Tel Aviv. And we will show you, and they came with charts, that every one of the people presently employed on the Levy program will be employed on these alternate programs. You have nothing to worry about. Well, throughout the country, over 10,000 people were laid off after the Levy cancellation. Nobody remembers what these alternates to the Levy program were. They never were. They were never undertaken. So as a result of mistakes and assumptions, and if you like, of lies presented to the government, that a very unfortunate decision was taken. That Israel has been damaged, has been hurt by the cancellation is obvious. Doesn't need to be said. But way beyond just the aircraft. If the Levy had not been cancelled, if the Levy engine made by Pratt & Whitney would have been produced here in Israel, Israel would have had today an aerospace industry the likes of Boeing and Lockheed and Grumman. That is an opportunity that we have missed. I don't know that we will ever be able to recover it. The same people who opposed the Levy opposed the reconnaissance satellite that since then Israel has produced and is reconnoitering around the globe, many more than one. They thought Israel didn't need it. These same people were opposed to the Arrow missile interceptor. They thought it was a waste of money. Actually, it was a great scientific breakthrough of great importance, strategic importance to Israel. On the many battles that we have fought against the skeptics of Israeli development, of made in Israel systems, weapon systems, actually we have won in due time all of these battles except one. We lost the battle for the Levy, and that is a great pity. Thank you.